host, Mike Averto, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Jason DePietropaolo. And today's question is, why are customers so loyal to direct-to-consumer brands? And from my seat, I think the way that I look at this is it's just that high-level relationship that customers and the brands have. A customer, you can go right back to the brand, have a conversation, tell them what their problems are, or ideally sharing what they're doing with their friends, and kind of being part of the team. How do you see that, Jason?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's all about the relationship. It's the bond of that relationship with that brand. I think that's what makes consumers so loyal to the direct-to-consumer brands. I think it's also about being part of the success of that direct-to-consumer brand. I know myself, I bought products before in the past on Kickstarter, and then to be able to say, hey, I was one of the first people to back this company, and now look, they went from a Kickstarter campaign to a big global company. I think being part of the team, part of that company's success, is why it makes you so loyal. You feel like you're invested in that company. I like to use the analogy of that new Italian restaurant that opens up in town, and you're one of the first people to go there, and then you go back and tell all your friends, and now it's the most popular place in town. Even though you didn't really have a lot to do with that, you feel like you're part of that restaurant's success, and I think that's why so many consumers are really loyal to these brands. They're a part of the team and a part of the success of that company.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that analogy, it can go both ways. Where you have an experience at the restaurant and it doesn't necessarily go as well, and you might even tell your friends never go there. But if you didn't have that direct relationship with the customer and open lines of communication, you wouldn't know, and then they just wouldn't come back.
Correct, and I think that swings. It still swings to the advantage of the direct-to-consumer brands, because even when I have a bad experience, I feel like my voice is going to be heard. I can go back to that brand and tell them why I had a bad experience, and usually that feedback loop is a lot smaller. So that brand will reach out to me and rectify the situation and make it better. And going back to the restaurant analogy, when you go to a little local restaurant, you have a bad meal, you talk to the owner and he makes sure it's right, and then you feel like your voice is heard. Whereas if you go to a big chain and have a bad meal, they might not be as receptive to your criticism as the local owner who's really invested in that company.
Yeah, sure. So, going to a McDonald's or a Burger King, I'm probably also not going to tell my friends about that experience because, everybody knows what that is.
Correct. And I think that's why, so many consumers are loyal to these brands. It's being a part of the success of that brand.
Yeah, sure. So I think the takeaway from that is the relationship is so important because you can reduce the feedback loop and create a better product. And, the way I would kind of reference this is thinking about, let's say I buy a TV from Walmart, and for some reason I get home and it just turns on and off, on and off. What am I going to do? Yeah, maybe I'll call the manufacturer, but I'm probably just going to return it to Walmart. And Walmart has 10,000 returns for that model. Are they really going to know exactly what the complaint was from the customer when they go back to the manufacturer? Whereas if that manufacturer sold it directly to the consumer, they're going to know exactly what that pain is, and that feedback loop to fix the problem is significantly less. And hopefully they come out of that as showing that the consumer that they can actually do something to rectify their experience, and that just kind of builds trust.
Yeah, and even as a consumer, I'm not even sure if I would even lodge a complaint because I'm not sure my voice is going to be heard. So whether or not that's true, that doesn't really matter. It's just that I think that as a consumer, you think that you're not going to be heard, and then that big brand doesn't get that feedback of that product, whereas the smaller direct-to-consumer brands get that feedback, and then that helps them to build a better product.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of heritage brands trying to figure out direct to consumer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of why customers are so loyal is, marketing is in your face. Historically, these direct to consumer brands have all been digitally native. They grew up on the internet, to Jason's point. Maybe they started on Kickstarter, but they've all the successful ones have figured out social media and digital marketing. And the benefit of that versus TV advertisement, which is, historically, or maybe even radio, how these heritage brands have distributed their message is kind of like a shotgun approach. And if I'm selling something very specifically, or maybe let's just say I'm even just selling something to just men, if you're doing it on TV, I mean, 50% of your message might be lost. So I think, when I get these ads that show up maybe in Instagram, is it really an ad to me if it's highly relevant and it's a product that I want to buy?
Yeah, I mean, the direct-to-consumer brands, just like you said, they grew up on the internet, and they've really been killing it with social media marketing. They really understand the consumer, and I think that all goes back to the data that they're gathering from their customers, and they really understand their customers, and then in turn they can really market to their specific customers. And we've seen some pretty edgy and viral videos from some of these direct-to-consumer brands. Like we all remember the Harry's. The ads for Harry's, how they're kind of edgy. So even like Black Rifle Coffee, they kind of really tailor it to their specific customer, and they understand their customers. So that marketing is really fine-tuned, almost like a sniper rifle. They really understand who their customer is.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's the brand knows their audience so well, and probably because whoever's behind the brand is part of that audience.
Correct.
They really just understand. So yeah, I think those are the main couple reasons. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, that's it. That's all I have.
Yeah, so I think for today's episode of why customers are so loyal, the takeaways are really it's just that relationship that you can build and that voice that you can have directly with your audience, which helps you build a better product and just helps that feedback loop. And one thing that we're going to constantly hear on this show is just that marketing is key. So Jason, thanks for your time. And
yeah, definitely. It's all about knowing your customer.
Yes, agreed. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you.